indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ray, will you take the roll call?
Mr. Connie? Here. Mr. Holloway? Here. Mr. Smolin?
Here.
Mr. Wiggin?
Here.
Mrs. Jordan?
Here.
Madam Chair, you report.
Mr. Turnley. We have the appointed auditor's annual report.
Board members, thanks for having me here this evening. As I do annually this time of year, go over the results of the most recent audit in the Township, in this particular case for calendar year 2024. So I put in front of you, as I do each year, a summary of the highlights of the audit report, and if you'd be kind enough to follow along. And if you have any questions, obviously ask as we go through this. You know you have the right document in front of you. About halfway down the first page, it says General Fund Balance Analysis. That's the document that I'll be referring to. And most of this presentation will be about your largest fund, which is the general fund. But as you know, and as you'll see here shortly, you obviously have various other little pots of money restricted for particular purposes, like your liquid fuels money, highway aid money, and capital reserve money, funds like that. So just starting with the general fund, on page 1, you see a 5-year history of the ending fund balance, overall general fund balance. And if you look at the last 2 years for 2024, you can see we ended at $916,826, almost $140,000 increase from last year, about 18%. I put an asterisk beside 2023 just as a refresher for those of you that may be new to the board this year, something I told the board last year. The main reason for that decrease in 23, just as a reminder, was not necessarily money leaving the township, but you have another fund, that a pot of money, as I call it, called the Operating Reserve Fund. And it stands separate from the general fund. And this decrease was the transfers between the operating fund and the general fund. There were more going out to that operating fund than coming in, which caused this decrease. So that was actually money still staying in-house, not being sent to third-party vendors, but sent to another fund for whatever purposes the board wishes in 2023. At the top of page 2, I just give the board an idea of where their fund balance stands in relation to industry standards, the general fund. They always take a look at it, the Government Finance Officers Association, which is kind of an oversight type agency, governmental organizations. They like to look at what's called unassigned portion of your general fund, not restricted for any purpose, is as a percentage of your budget. For West Deer Township, as of December of 24, your unassigned fund balance was $787,000. So that was about 9.6% of the budget for 25. That's how they measure last year's fund balance as a percentage of the current year budget. So what the GFOA organization says, you want to try to be as close to roughly 2 months average expenditures of the general fund. That's what you want this unassigned figure to be at or above. Doesn't necessarily have to be, all cases are different, but that's something they say is a target goal. So I did the math for the board in that paragraph, and 2 months of expenditures is roughly almost $1,300,000. So you can see that your unassigned is below that figure. Not a cause for concern in particular, because here at West Deer you have that other pot that we call the operating reserve. And a lot of municipalities don't necessarily have that separate as you do, but you track it separately, which is not wrong, that's good. But some of them have monies like that included in their general fund. So if we were to add that pot of money, that ending fund balance, at 12/31/2024, you'd be well over that target goal. And as I say in that short, small paragraph after that, that balance in that operating reserve as of the end of the year was a little over $2 million, $2,038,000. So I just wanted to point that out to you for just understanding your overall operations. Below that, we take a look at first the 5-year history of the general fund revenues, and then we'll turn to expenses. You can see last year we had a significant increase. This year we had a significant decrease. And the main reason for that is simply, and if you look at the 3 bullet points, last year in 23, we had those 3 major grants that came in for building purposes, capital purposes, which you had in 23, but you didn't have again in 24. So That's pretty straightforward as to why that increase and then subsequent big decrease almost equal in amount occurred. But I did note the last two lines on the bottom of page 2. Just of note, in 2024, the two revenues that increased that I felt were notable were your deed transfer taxes increased by about $235,000, and your building permits $101,000. And the reason I just bring those two revenues amongst all the types that you come in is those two are what we call volatile revenues. They're very hard to budget because you just don't know what property is going to be sold, what type of transactions, you don't know how many building permits you're going to enter. So those are really tough to budget. So from an actual perspective, we did very well 2024 versus 2023 in those two categories. On the top of page 3, a 5-year history of general fund expenditures, still staying with that. You can see when looking at 23 versus 24 at the bottom, just a slight decrease in expenditures, about $86,000. So very consistent between the last 2 years, only a 1.1% difference between the 2 years. Below that, again, sticking with the general fund, how did the board do in management, comparing budget to actual? The first bullet point at the bottom of this page deals solely with revenues. As you can see, budgeted revenues exceeded actual revenues by approximately $2 million. We'll explain here why that happened. So I show the 3 main categories: taxes, intergovernmental revenues, and charges for services. So you can see budget versus actual, were you positive or were you negative? Taxes, I just told you that your deed transfer were much higher than last year. That's the reason why you were positive in the taxes category. The charges for services, again, higher than budget. That was because of the building permits that I had mentioned to you. The intergovernmental, the reason it's so far below budget, as I started my presentation, those 3 large grants that you got in 23, that some of that money was actually budgeted to be spent in 24, so it's more of a timing issue when those capital expenditures were incurred and spent. So you budgeted 3.5 in the intergovernmental, that's where you get your grants and things of that nature, but you actually only brought in 844. So once again, just a timing issue between how the budget was prepared and what actually happened in actual. In the audit report that you probably received earlier from Dan in an electronic fashion, there are 2 pages in the back of that audit report, 30 and 31, that I'm giving you the revenue budget versus actual on just a summary level, high level. On those pages is a detailed line item by line item comparison of budget to actual. So if you, maybe some of you have already saw it, but if you haven't, you're looking to see, hey, I want to see how all the line items did. That's where you would go in that electronic copy of the audit report to see the detailed variances, budget versus actual. On the top of page 4, just taking a look at expenditures. Budgeted expenditures exceeded actual by $662,000. That's always the side of the equation you want to be on. You're under budget in your spending. Again, I gave you in this particular case 4 major spending areas where there was a positive or negative variance, and you can see those differences. Police, code enforcement, highways, and culture and recreation. And the ones for public safety, code enforcement that was in the negative, I just pointed out that the one line that caused that, outsourced professional services, were budgeted at $75,000, but you spent $164,000. That's the reason for that. And then the big under budget for culture and recreation, again, dealing with those grants from last year. You had budgeted monies for the Nike site, and those monies were more spent in 23 than they were in 24, which caused the significant variance there. Once again, just information for the board members. Schedule 2 in the audit report, just like I told you for revenues, there's a schedule in the back of the audit report for expenditures as well. We're just talking about at a very summary level in this presentation. Back there is a detailed line item by line item breakdown, budget versus actual, so you can see how the township did in all areas, not just at this higher summary level. At the beginning of my presentation, I talked about, we're going to talk about the general fund, but the township obviously has other pots of money, as I like to call them. And I call them that because they're restricted for particular purposes. Starting at the bottom of page 4, And continuing on to page 5, and I won't go through each of those, are all of those pots of money that come into the township that are not part of the general fund, but have to be maintained in a separate fund and tracked. And all of the receipts and disbursements related to that is in that electronic copy of the audit report that you had already received. I'm just telling you how they changed from one year to the next briefly in the bullet points at the bottom of page 4 and top of page 5. At the bottom of page 5, the pension funds, just for informational purposes, the police pension fund grew by approximately 5.3% in 24 from 23. The main reason for that
Guidance is later. That one should be on. Pressing the button. Trying to get you some amplified sound here, sorry. That's okay.
Can you give this one?
I can, if you like that.
Can everybody hear him?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, right
Sorry.
here.
Good. I thought he was on the mic.
Yeah. I did too.
Sorry about that. As I mentioned, the police pension fund grew by 5.3%. The majority of that, if not all of that, as I think the case was the same last year, part of that growth is the unrealized gain in the value of those investments. So those are investments that have grown, but ones that you have not sold. You haven't sold and recognized what's called a realized gain. These are things that you have just grown in value and have not sold yet. But the majority of that growth in the police pension fund, like most of my municipalities, are from those unrealized gains on investments. The same is true with the non-uniform fund. You notice it increased just about almost 5% as well. And of that increase, the bulk of that are those unrealized gains in investments. Once again, just information for the sake of the board. And the last 2 pages, these are comments I make to the board each year with regard just to suggestions because of the size of your municipality. I have a lot of these same comments in those 5 municipalities, so I won't go over those in detail. So I think, everyone, those are the highlights from the financial perspective, the most important items pulled out of that electronic copy of the audit report you have, and then added some supplemental prior year information so you can get more perspective on where the township was and where they're at now. If anyone has any questions, hopefully I'll be able to answer them this evening, but if not, I'd be more than happy to get the answers, pass them along to Dan, or come to a future meeting to explain anything you might need.
So would you say the health of the township is still very good, financially sound?
Yes, very much.
That funds are being managed properly and
Yes, yes.
that's the part that Mr. Mator, and well, you're new, but you're going to do it too. Our past financial officer, so 8 years has been heard the same thing. So thank you for that. It's a very detailed report, but it's hard to understand some of that. So that I guess the long and short of it is, are we doing good? For the taxpayers' sake, the answer is yes, and that's what we want to hear.
And that's correct.
Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now with your comment from the public, please approach the microphone, limit your comments to 5 minutes, and state your name and address.
Victoria Austin, 10 Love Street in Bairdford. I wish to voice my concerns with the 2024 appointed auditor's annual report. On page I, it's a small I, the financial statements in this report in regard to governmental activities triggered an adverse opinion by the auditor, who stated that Exhibit A, the township's statement of net position, and Exhibit B, the statement of activities, were prepared using a method that is not generally accepted in government financial statements. So there are potential misstatements, possibly raising substantial doubt as to the township's financial health, which contradicts what we just heard. So I'd like an explanation on record to the public of what errors or omissions led to the unfavorable evaluation and what's the correction and action plan going forward. Thank you.
Rich Alabama, 50 Hagerstown, Culverville Road. Under item for tonight's meeting, item discussion of dog shelter. When you say discussion, is that just the board or is the general public going to be able to ask questions what we're discussing?
It's the board.
Just the board. So we don't know what you're going to talk about. I have a couple points here. I want to talk about the dog shelter and the possible relocation.
We don't know, we may answer your questions, so I think we'll just wait till we get to that point.
Well,
We'll go from there.
and then at the end of the meeting, if I want to ask that question, I can't because it's only non-agenda items, correct?
Send an email or make a call.
But we can't discuss it tonight unless, so I can't read your mind. I don't know what to say.
If you have thoughts on the dog shelter, I think you should share.
I'm
with the
going to
board.
do that right now.
Yeah.
I wrote a letter to the school board, sent this letter to all the school board members before the meeting. And there are nine bullet points, but the first one is the safety of the students. Right now, the dog shelter sits in a prime viewing area for Chief Loper and the EMS staff over there. We all know the dangers of, pardon me, child predators. Even the dogs, if one of them will become hostile, this is a pretty good location for you guys to see what's going on. Am I right, Mr. Chief?
Yeah, it's nice having a close by.
Sure. And that's also the adult volunteers. If we would put them in an isolated area down there, bringing some danger for them as well. We did talk to our veterinarian, and if the dogs are down there and they're in some sort of isolation down there, they can become more agitated and more hostile. Even fire safety issues. There could be something smoldering here. Chief Wigan, you'd be able to see it more readily, correct, versus down over the hill. I spoke with Deer Creek Drainage. There was a question whether or not the sewage and water was available here. You have two tap-ins right up front, and they're deep enough. And the water line goes right down East Union Road as well. We also asked the school board if they lease or sell you property, would there be any legal ramifications if there is something that happens down there. Also, the location over the hill would be about 150 feet from the stadium, the football field. As soon as that first referee's whistle goes off, those dogs are going to go crazy. It's going to interfere with those things as well. So, also with the building being out of sight, it can also be out of mind, which means people will not be visiting to adopt or make donations to an already underfunded service. We should be proud of this rare facility in Allegheny County, and it should stay in the same location or close to that location. The current spot with much needed bathroom, storage area, small office and facelift would be the appropriate scenario here. Also, this master plan should have been created 3 years ago with a solution on the property that the township already owns. Happy to talk to any one of you if you have any questions.
I have a question for you. Did you contact the school board as a personal citizen or through the planning commission?
Oh, I make it very clear here. I opened it up. I'll read you the opening paragraph. My name is Rich Hollabaugh. My wife and I have an architectural design and structural engineering firm with a partner here in West Deer. Been a resident of West Deer for most of my life. Full transparency. I am also a member of the West Deer Township Planning Commission, but by no means am I speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission. Clear enough?
I personally disagree with everything you just said there.
You don't think there's a safety issue down there as opposed
I
to
think that area is
anything?
very well traveled. It's still within 100 or 200 yards from the police department.
You don't think that that's more dangerous than putting it
I
right where
think
it
we
is
can
now?
get into, I don't think we should just back and forth
Well,
things,
Yeah.
because you,
Everybody has their opinion on it. We have a lot more information than what.
Well, enlighten me, please.
well, we're gonna have our meeting, we're gonna move forward with our meeting when it comes out for discussion. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Hollabaugh. Any other comments?
Good evening, Jack Burrick, 37 Corvallis Lane. I will be focusing my comments this evening on the solar ordinance draft and the July hearing and meeting. At the meeting, during the discussion on the vote, Mrs. Jordan stated multiple times that she did not understand it. and that she didn't understand that all of the acronyms, etc. This raises two questions. One is, why at the May supervisors meeting would the supervisors have voted to advertise for a hearing in order you didn't understand? You didn't have the opportunity to fully discuss and vet, and did not have input from the Planning Commission. The other question is, why was the vote to table this? It could have been voted to send back for changes, and the township would not have lost a month where no discussion among the supervisors could occur. In addition, Mr. Robb stated that the statement about using all energy on site would be a township interpretation already discussed with Mr. Mator. However, in addition to the concern he pointed out about the section on the accessory solar energy system in 8A.7 incorrectly stating all energy created by the ASES is to be used on site. Under the definition of accessory solar energy system states an area of land or other area used for solar collection system principally used to capture solar energy converted to electrical energy or thermal power and supply electrical or thermal power solely for on-site use. I won't read the rest of the definition, but that's very important. And Mr. Robb, I ask you this question. Can you please confirm if our understanding is correct that the term solely in a zoning ordinance generally signifies that a particular land use or activity is the exclusive or only permitted use and within a designated zone or under specific conditions, which can have significant legal implications as it restricts the use and may otherwise be considered and can be subject to legal challenges based on claims that such restrictions are utterly burdensome or unconstitutional.
I don't want to waste your time, Mr. Reader, so you go ahead and say your comment.
As I stated in July public hearing, this draft is written overreaches in ways that risk putting the township at odds with residents' rights, state level energy goals, and PUC regulations. The draft makes unnecessary and uneven barriers in front of residents and property owners who simply want to make practical, lawful use of their own property to generate local power. In many cases, these restrictions appear without clear justification and or public benefit. For example, the limitation on 50 kilowatts I mentioned. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, and I don't want to go into any more detail on it, but there's a restriction on there, or not a restriction, a requirement for a noise study during construction, and there is no other temporary construction project which requires that. No PRDs, no oil and gas, nobody is required to do a sound study during construction. I continue to urge this board not to pass the draft as written. Take the time to get it right, align with the state's PUC and energy goals, honor private property rights, and promote solutions that make our community more self-reliant and secure. Let's regulate smartly, not excessively, and build a policy that reflects the best of this community. The last comment I want to make is sort of a follow-on to what Rich said. Again, I've made this many times. The items for discussion have no details, and as we know, the dog show has come up many times. I don't understand why there's no detail for the residents, because we didn't think of comment on anything. So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Nicole Zealand, Glasgow Road. My comments were not included in the meeting minutes for the July zoning ordinance hearing. I'm requesting that the board does not approve these minutes until they are complete and accurate. And I want to thank Jody and Mr. Mator in advance for fixing this omission. Since my comments were not documented, I will reiterate some of what I said last month as it still applies tonight. Regarding the solar farm ordinance, this board has been elected by our community to be the experts of decision-making and governance in West Deer. You're all human, and we can't expect you to know everything. But it is very alarming to me that you voted to send this ordinance to a hearing in May without understanding its contents. This is a case in point for why we should follow our standard process of only sending a draft ordinance to a hearing after our planning commission has been able to review it and provide feedback that we can then incorporate. If we had followed this process, we could be having a hearing next month for a solar ordinance thoughtfully tailored to West Deer's needs with input from our community. Instead, we have a template ordinance today that overreaches with excessive requirements, which could discourage renewable energy development. This ordinance, as is, also infringes upon residents' rights, state-level energy goals, and PUC regulations. We deserve more consideration and understanding of policies that shape the future of West Deer. We deserve informed ordinances built through community collaboration. Moving forward, we deserve fiscal responsibility in paying for one hearing for a good ordinance that the majority of our neighbors support, instead of now paying for 2 hearings through either a redo of this draft or a later amendment. I understand Mr. Roth has recommended getting something on the books, even if it's not perfect. The argument of pass now and fix later was made with our oil and gas ordinance. Almost a year later, no fixes have been made or even entertained while development moves forward throughout our township. It is clear that this is not a trustworthy nor fiscally responsible strategy. I'm all for renewable energy development and having responsible ordinances in place to protect our community. I urge this board not to pass the solar farm ordinance as it is written. Please send it back to the Planning Commission and let's work together to get it right the first time. Thank you.
Ross Stone Mill Road. Some of this was talked about by the auditors. I'm not going to modify my questions in my time.
Can't hear you.
Working microphone.
Speak up.
So within the last year or two, the township made an accounting software change in addition to paying a significant amount of money for the transfer from the old software to the new. I vaguely remember the software system change costing taxpayers roughly $20,000 to $25,000 in aggregate. I'm curious to hear from the auditor, unfortunately he's gone, what improvements, if anything, did his office gain that made the audit easier, more efficient, and more accurate? Starting on page 3, Capital Project Fund has 0 cash, $232,000 of liabilities, $62,000 operating transfer in, an intergovernmental revenue budget amount of $3.5 million, but only received $844,000, which represents a $2.5 million miss. I also do not see a $2.7 million deferred inflow of resources due into the capital project fund. Continuing from that, on page 16, there's a note about unanticipated operating reserve needs totaling just over $2 million. Page 30 details a better breakdown of intergovernmental revenues. Out of the $2.7 million, out of the $2.7 million missing revenues, what, if any, grants were budgeted for 2024 were realized in 2025? Page 21, a $300,000 transfer from the liquid fuels fund to the general fund to cover expenses. The liquid fuel fund, as far as I understand it, is for roads, streets, and bridges. What accounting measures are in place to make sure funding for the roads from the liquid fuel fund is not applied to other expenses, such as the municipal building, as an example? On page 32, Board of Supervisors insurance totaling expenditure totaling $15,000. I'm curious to see if somebody could explain what $15,000 of insurance the supervisor means. And then finally, the initial document that the auditor spoke from, whenever I got the whole auditor's report, that actually wasn't provided to the residents. Was there a reason why we didn't get that to review as well? That's it.
I can answer that one really quickly, Mr. Stump. We just got it tonight.
Okay, so that's fair. As far as like the 2.5 million of the grants that 1.5 million, were those realized in 2025 and therefore they did not get 2024's report?
That's what Mr. Trumley said.
Okay, that's
He said
fine.
that 2.7 is not a miss. He said if you look at the year prior, there's 2.7 over, almost identical.
Okay.
That
So-
wasn't a miss.
Washes.
Yeah, so if you make that,
I understand.
yeah.
I understand. Just in reference to whenever you read the snapshot of 2024, it stuck out to me that I'm like, why was it budgeted in 24, but you're saying it was realized in 23? How was it realized in 23?
I'll tell you what, I would like to address these after public comment if you,
I'm fine with that now.
no, that's not what I'm saying. There's might be other people who have.
Our comment time's over.
So, but I'll address, I jotted down some of your notes, and what I heard was Ms. Austin said as well, and I'll address that, the issues.
Thank you.
Any other comment?
Hi, my name's Linda Jamison. I live over in Huntertown. I have volunteered at the dog shelter for over 30 years with Barb, and I don't know a lot of the details, other than when I come to the meetings and hear things, but I heard that the shelter tonight was going to be relocated, and it sounded like in an isolated area. I guess a couple of things about safety. One, if the shelter's isolated, you have a greater risk of dog dumping, which, where it's located now, is at a much more reduced opportunity because it's visual. The second thing is the volunteers are probably 98% women from high school to seniors. And there are times when you're down there alone over here, but you feel like because people are close by, there's you feel safer. I guess the distance away from other locations, I guess, gives me a little concern, or something that maybe could be considered. And then the other thing is, if there is an emergency, and I can tell you, years ago, I had one where there was an issue with the dog, and I had to call out for help. And I was very fortunate that the police officers were close by, and they actually came over and helped me resolve the situation. So I guess for me, the biggest thing is the isolation issue more than anything else. It's going to be a new building or a updated building, so I think that will bode well for keeping it more forward in location. So I guess that's my only thing, is if you could give that, the safety issue, a real consideration, considering that it's generally, women alone down there and dog dumping. So if you have any questions or anything.
Do you have a lot of gate volunteers?
Yeah, there are probably about 20, maybe, well, I shouldn't say that, maybe about 15 years ago, we had a Girl Scout troop kind of come in and start volunteering with us and doing the dog walking, which was awesome. And then that led to them bringing other friends in. So there are a lot of high school and junior high
Is that right
kids.
after school?
After school, they come and do the dog walking. So from here to here, it's like more of a convenience.
There's two athletic fields right beside that area as well, just so you know, they practice football, lacrosse, everything right there. There's a public works garage there, there's a bus garage there. That area is very well traveled down there, there's always people there.
I don't know where the location is, so that might have to be a point of reference.
There's two athletic
I'm just
fields
saying
right
that the
beside
kids walk, from here to here, they've done it for
I think
years.
there'll be a better explanation when we get to that.
Okay.
But thank you for your comment, we appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
My name is Caroline Holloway. I live at 5036 Bakersfield Comerville Road. Prior to moving back to West Deer, I lived in Pine Township. I had a house with some yardage, fenced-in yard, and I was a volunteer for a rescue dog shelter. And I would take the animals in, and many of these dogs were abandoned, abused. They were very shy, very timid. And one of the things that I had to do as being a foster parent is I had to get these dogs into situations to where there's cars, there's people, there's talking, there's things going about. Because what they would do in those types of situations is sometimes they would go inward, sometimes they'd become hostile. So one of the main things, and one of the reasons why I'd like to keep it where it is because it is a good environment. There's police coming in and out, there's EMS, all hours of the day. I see kids riding their bikes and things like that. That's actually good for those dogs. What would be bad for those dogs is to take a dog that's been abused or in isolation and further isolate them into a building over the hill. I also think from a dog shelter point of view, it's a marketing issue. If you have people driving past and they go, oh, Mom, can I go look at the dogs? Mom takes them, they look at the dogs. Oh, can we get him? Look, he's so cute. There's essentially sort of a marketing aspect that you, as a shelter, you want to make sure that you can, give these dogs to a good home. So I just wanted to point out those other aspects of it also.
Any other comments?
So, I heard the comments, Ms. Austin and Mr. Stump, about the auditor's report. I will say this, en route to getting my MPA, public administration degree at graduate school, they made me take an entire semester of nothing more than nonprofit and governmental financial accounting, okay? When you look at these things, we were taught on these things, the first time I ever saw them, they can scare the hell out of me. There's another way to put it. When you see words like adverse, your heart stops. Mr. Fleming can tell you, we dealt with this when he was on the board last time. We dealt with this every single year. We had an actual supervisor who would say, look, it's adverse, it's adverse. Adverse in this situation, they explain it on, let me see if I can find it. On page 2, they explain exactly why it's adverse. It's not really adverse. The bottom line, I'll summarize this. The Western Township uses what's called a modified accrual system of accounting. There's different kinds. There's cash and modified accrual, modified cash, and full accrual. The GFOA, which he's talking about in Gatsby, they recommend full accrual. Why? Because it's the most, I don't want to say lock type, but it's the one that's easiest for them. It's the one that accounts for everything, like ratchets down the details that frankly we don't even need here. So when he gives us an adverse opinion, he said, you probably recall this, bringing my flashbacks. When he says adverse, he cannot put that as anything other than adverse because it's not what the GASB requirement state is required to not be adverse. So we had one supervisor every year who questioned that over 8 years. And Mr. Turley would stand here and explain to him, look, you could go full accrual, the township could go full accrual, but at that time, probably about 10 years ago, it would cost the township about $70,000 just to convert to it, that you would have to hire somebody else to manage that because our finance officers are not capable of doing that. So he said, it comes down to the board of supervisors, do you want to go up to that next level? And every year, at that expense, and every year he would answer the same way, or advise the board, I don't feel it's necessary, because they would ask him, do you feel it's necessary? And he would always say, no, it isn't. So when you look at things in this, and I'm more than willing to sit down with anybody in this room, or anybody at home who watches this, to go through any aspect of this that you have questions on, because it can be confusing. But if you want to pull out something negative out of it, it's really easy to do that. Because like, to use the example that Mr. Stump brought up, it looks like we're in a hole $2.7 million this year, but we weren't, because if you look at 2023's audit, we were ahead $2.7 million. So when you transfer money one year and it gets paid the following year, and he mentioned that, the timing, it makes it look different than it is. So when Mrs. Jordan asked him the question, the same as chair people before her, whether it be Mr. Carpuzzi, Mr. Fleming, anybody else that was before them, they always ask that question, so we're financially healthy, and he answers the same way every year that we are, and we really are. I mean, this township is doing great financially, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no auditor on this planet that would say otherwise. But even though it may look that way, don't be spooked by it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me.
Can you explain the archaic system that we used to have for years and why we updated that? Why it was necessary?
That was funny because Mr. Attorney's office, I asked them at the time, we used to a system called RA Services, which isn't bad, it's actually a decent system. But it's, when she said archaic, it looked like it was seriously Windows 95. It looked exactly like everything from like back when I started college and everything. It was, you know, with tube CRT television and stacks under forth with the computers and all that stuff. It was really, it looked really old and it operated very old, but the concern we had, the first and main concern we had was that RA Services was proprietary. It was run by a husband and wife, started by a husband and wife from Butler. And we said, what will happen when they retire? You know, we're gonna be left with nothing. We reached out to Mark Turnley's office and for suggestions, which software systems would you recommend we use? And they made a couple suggestions and we asked, okay, what do you think of RA? And they said, we hate dealing with Western Township because of RA. It's just that it's so much harder for them to get the numbers they need to do their job as the auditor. So that's what we switched. It's the number one reason was that it's proprietary. And from what I've understood, I don't know if they sold or they brought somebody else in that should be going on, but we're absolutely fine with Springbrook right now, which we're trying to convert it to. Sue, you're new, but any problems with it?
No.
She started on August 1st, so it's been about 2 weeks, and the system's so easy, she's up, and she said, hey, you do a great job. You know, what you're talking about, that she's up and running with no problems already. It's very easy to follow.
Thank you. Just seeing on one of the first pages, adverse, just,
Ms. Austin, I hear that every year. I don't think I heard it last year, but Mr. Fleming can tell you, we heard it 8 years in a row. Because you see that adverse, and it's, first time I saw it, my heart stopped. I called up the auditor, this is still Mark Tony's office, and I said, how's this adverse? He said, don't worry, it's just, use a different accounting system, so.
So to expand on your point, like the reason why I push back on that is because using like the adverse thing, I was under the impression that it would not accurately reflect the financial health of the township, and therefore you see my point of if it explicitly states there's a $2.7 million a shortcoming, then that in and of itself would not accurately reflect the financial health of the township.
Yeah, but it does. If you look at there's one exhibit that I always tell people to go to, is Exhibit D. When I get these audit reports, when I get the draft audit reports, that's the page I go to right away, because that's the most important document per page of that entire document. It tells you overall, because if you transfer, say $2 million from, he mentioned at the end of the year, we budget the operating reserve fund and general fund separately. If you transfer $2 million from the general fund to the operating reserve fund, that's going to look like a $2 million loss. And if somebody wanted to pounce on it and say, look, the township's not doing their job, they'd point at that and say, look, they're down $2 million. However, if you look at the operating reserve fund, because that money transferred into it, you'd see a net of $2 million. So that Exhibit D it's actually entitled Statement of Revenues, Expenditures, and Changes in Fund Balances. And that overall, that gives you the overall picture of the township from where we stand. So even that, like this year, the net change was, the fund balance was negative $6.3 million. Oh my goodness, we're doing terrible, time to close the doors. If you look last year, I think we were at $12 million because we got all the money in from the bond and everything else. This year we paid all that money out of the bond for the building. So that's what happens. You can't just look at 1 year, you have to look at successive years as well. So, okay.
So you gave us an updated version of the public comments for the meeting minutes? So we can go into it. So everybody sees we have your missing comment, the right here highlighted. So attached to the minutes of the regular business meeting, July 16, 2025. Are there any questions from the supervisors? motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the revised minutes from last week's meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Wiggins, second by Mr. Hollenbach. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Attached is the finance officer's report. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the report as submitted?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Hollenbach, second by Mr. Smollett. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Attached are the list of bills. Do I have a motion to pay the list of bills as submitted and all approved reimbursable items in compliance with generally accepted accounting practices?
Make that motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Smollett, second by Mr. Hollenbach. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Attached is the police chief's report. Are there any questions? So Chief, on behalf of you, while we were at Parks and Rec, the road crew communities was amazing. I know you were enjoying Europe, but your staff did a great job, and it was a wonderful event. And so it doesn't happen without the administration working together with them, and so we appreciate your efforts and the efforts of everybody involved.
Thank you. They worked hard that day. They worked hard. They did. Thank you. They're late.
Attached is the Public Works Foreman's report. Any questions? Attached is the engineer's report submitted by Shoup Engineering. Are there any questions? Attached is the Planning, Zoning, and Code Enforcement report. Are there any questions? Attached is Fire Hall number 1 report. Are there any questions? We have number 2's report. Are there any questions? And number 3's. Any questions?
So, number 3's was not included in the agenda because I didn't get it in time. I would just like to go over the highlights for the public. Western number 3 had 126 calls. We also held a golf outing that was well attended on August 15th, and we hosted the West Deer Parks Hunter Safety Course on the 16th. A notable building renovation update is our Phase 2A of renovations was completed with the assistance of a $250,000 GEDTF grant.
So we'd like to thank Parks and Recs. They put on that hunter safety and we're just always volunteering right after communities was a lot. So thank you for hosting and thank them for doing it. What's your EMS report? Is there any questions? Bill, do you have anything to add? Acceptance 2026.
Do we have an update to the ceiling issue?
It was in our manager's report.
I know, but they didn't get the manager's report.
You're asking me. I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about the public, just to update them because we've been talking about it for the last several months.
Do you want to talk about that or want me to? I mean, Mr. Mayor and I have been back and forth several times. We've been over the building stuff. We did the insurance, we had the insurance adjuster out, started taking some pictures, asking me a bunch of questions. I guess you're probably better for that point. And then whatever after that, yeah.
Thanks for leading up.
That's pretty right into the process.
No, what we talked about, we did discuss, we involved the insurance company to handle that because of the mold issue. What we found is that the mold was in the tile, the ceiling tiles, and the door, as was discussed, this was a meeting I wasn't president at, but the door needed replaced, and that's all something that our public works can do. So I put Mr. Hughes in contact with the public works foreman. Our guys are going to be replacing the ceiling tiles, we're going to be replacing that metal door. That'll be cheaper than our deductible for the insurance company anyhow. So it wasn't as expensive as we initially thought.
Yeah, they were down a week before community days. We started counting up piles and things like that, going over it, but we wanted to make sure we got the community days first, so.
So why do we think it was so small?
That's just what I was told, stories in the walls, in carpets, things like that. When I argued with the insurance company why they weren't acting more quickly, because we didn't want to.
Just some of those, some random,
I heard from, Scott,
I brought it up. It was, I visibly saw the mold on the ceiling tiles. I didn't say in the walls or on the carpet.
so when we turn it into the insurance company, usually the insurance companies move very quickly when it molds at all.
So you were able to pull that claim, so now we don't have to deal with insurance and have that extra expense for both of those things.
Yeah, we're gonna take care of it in-house.
Perfect. Accepts its 2026 minimal municipal obligations, MMOs, attached to the 2026 MMO obligation, that's our reports for the police and municipal employee pension plans is submitted by the township actuary. As per state law, the board simply has to acknowledge receipt of the reports. Are there any questions regarding the 2026 MMOs? If you want to have a conversation, can we ask you to go outside? We're kind of live here. Do you have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the 2026 minimum municipal obligations for the police and municipal employee pension plans?
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Wiggins, second by Mr. Fleming. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Ordinance number 462, solar farm regulation. An ordinance of West Deer Township, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, amending the West Deer Township zoning ordinance as codified in Part 2, Chapter 210 of the West Deer Township Code of Ordinance to include solar energy-related definitions, amending the use table in Part 2, Chapter 210 to include accessory solar energy systems as permitted accessory uses in township zoning districts in the township, to include solar energy and battery energy solar systems as conditional uses in the rural estate zoning district in the township, amending Part 2, Chapter 210 to add new solar energy systems to include supplemental regulations for accessory solar energy systems as permitted accessory uses in all zoning districts in the township, and solar energy facilities and battery energy storage systems as conditional uses in the rural estate zoning district in the township. Are there any questions? Are there any comments?
Consideration for changes. In section 1 under accessory solar energy system, the definition states that the electrical power generated can only solely be used on site, less than 50 kilowatt hours. With net metering, I don't think that should be included in this regulation. I also wonder if we shouldn't take all the accessory use, which covers commercial and residential, and put that under the accessory use section of the zoning ordinance. Zoning ordinance title is solar farm regulation, but it quite clearly goes into regulating the residential solar panels and what the residents can do with solar panels.
So for the people that haven't been here before, the purpose of this and why it was put together, we don't have anything in place right now. So if someone came to us and wanted to put a solar farm, we have nothing. There's nothing in place. There's no protections, there's no regulations. That's why we are where we are right now, because seeing this happening in other townships and municipalities. So that's what brought us to this point.
And the other thing is, I heard a lot of comments about the solar, bringing solar in and everything else. I don't know what everybody knows about solar and what it takes and what happens with it. There's a lot of questions that we have to answer as a public official. You got to take into a lot of considerations. Every time since I've been on this board, I come in here and somebody questions what the board makes a decision at. And it's unreal. I mean, I could sit here and talk to anybody here about solar and what you can do and what you can't do with it. Is it dangerous? Isn't it dangerous? What happens when it's over? What do you do with it? And those are the questions that come up. So I would just like everybody to take a second and understand what we have to do. She just stated that this township is unprotected. It's
not
unprotected.
true. No, it's not time for public comment. He's speaking right now.
It's unprotected. If somebody would come in and put a solar farm in because you made a deal with them, There's nothing we could do to protect somebody else. So maybe you have 20 acres and you want to do something with it, that's right. But we got to make sure, it's just like the gas wells. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself. And that's
Nobody
what we're
interrupted
doing.
you, Mr. Bird. Please do not interrupt a supervisor. Respect.
And that's why we do what we do. So you might not agree with it, but the person next to you might have 40 acres and doesn't want anything. So that's what we do. So being that said, is there any more questions, man?
Just to follow up with that though, all other uses is limited to conditional and industrial zoning.
I mean, I could get back into the same conversation that we had the last meeting. Do you want me to do that? Do you have anything more that you want to hear from me on that particular issue? Because I told you that's a significant risk because of the type of land that's zoned in that particular zoning designation is, number one, likely not sufficient and potentially exposes us to an exclusionary order. And secondly, even if you would allow that, even if they could find a spot to put it there, we would not be able to require as conditions all of these items, including one that jumps out is a decommissioning bond that would require them to post a bond so that once this thing is done in 30 years, there'd be if there's no money, if the solar business goes out of business, goes bankrupt, you could be sitting there looking at solar panels for decades after that. So that's the reason why it's not just, okay, if it's any of the uses, they go in the I district. I think you remember me saying that, sir.
I do, but he said that we weren't unprotected.
Well, I still stand by that opinion. I mean, unless you think that what I just described is protected, I mean, you feel that would protect us?
Well, I do to a point, yeah.
Which
There's other townships that have what you're calling exclusionary zoning.
Because they're getting worried that they haven't been challenged. I mean, I don't
Well,
get legal advice.
that's what I'm saying. I don't think the fear of it is, on our doorstep.
Well, as we've stated publicly, there's been multiple inquiries directly to the township from solar developers asking about the situation with our zoning ordinances. Secondly, I don't give advice based on, well, let's hope no one challenges. I wouldn't be doing my job if I give advice based on that. So there may be many townships that are taking a different approach or just putting their head in the sand and just they're going to roll the dice. And if this township wants to do that, that's fine. But your advice, I stand by the advice that I give.
If we don't vote on it, can it go to the planning commission?
You can do whatever you want. You can not vote on it or vote it down and tell the planning commission to create a new ordinance. You can approve this, and then later on, there's another item for planning commission workshop, and you could say, hey, one of the things we want the planning commission to work on is improving. You think it's not a good ordinance? You think there's improvements to be made? Recommend some improvements to us, bring them back, and then we can amend it if you think it's appropriate. Or you can do nothing. You can vote it down and just leave things status quo and, hope for the
We
best.
definitely need to do something. I'm not sure what something else.
It's really disheartening, like the auditor's report, our solicitor, our engineer, our staff, everybody is questioned, that nobody knows what we're talking about except certain people do everything wrong, and it's just not the case. We have to follow, that's why we have a solicitor, to get legal advice for things that we don't know,
I agree with that.
it's like everything is always wrong, everything is always an argument, and now all of a sudden we have this interest in a dog shelter where there never was before. Some things just kind of blow my mind sitting in this seat, it really does. But for the sake of that, do we have any more questions for this resolution? No, I skipped my fingers did it again, I'm sorry.
I think it's
The Band-Aid does not help.
18.
It does, I'm sorry.
Do you have a motion?
When you get to that point, Mr. Hall, I have a Band-Aid on my finger, can't use it on my iPad. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number?
I'll second.
Oh, you did motion it? Motion by Mr. Hollabaugh. No, Mr. Fleming, second by Mr. Hollabaugh. How about we take a vote? Mr. Hollabaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Smallman?
I'm abstaining on that. I just don't know enough about it.
You said no?
No.
Mr. Whitmer?
No.
Mr. Fleming?
Yeah.
Myself is yes. Mr. Mayor? You don't have to do a
No,
call.
you just did it.
I'm serious. Sorry about that. usually what we do. Adopt resolution number 2025-11, GEDTF grant application. A resolution confirming that West Deer Township has formally requested a GEDTF grant designated an official to perform the required duties between the applicant and the redevelopment authority of Allegheny County to RAAC. Authorize the execution and delivery of any and all agreements between the applicant and RAAC, assured where applicable the provision of local matching funds and will comply with all the provisions of the application. Mr. Mator, do you have anything to add to this for us?
Yes, I'm gonna try this because we're actually live streaming right now, and I'm going to try using the monitors. Because I have an image that might help everybody here. There we go. First up, correct. Let's try this. Do that. Okay, this is, I don't know, I'm gonna blow this up so everybody can see. This is actually what we're applying for in this GEDTF grant. Going back to before the building was built and it was at the planning commission phase, the planning commission recommended connecting the sidewalk. If anybody ever wondered why there's a crosswalk going across the parking lot between this parcel, well, it's all the same parcel, well, it is this parcel. Between this parcel and the next parcel where the sidewalk at the old building was, that's because there was planned a sidewalk to go in front of the building. That's all in yellow. And then they also discussed the possibility of having a walking trail for the dog walkers and also for safety for the kids. A lot of kids would cut through the woods before, if everybody remembered the trail that followed the wood line. That's what this grant is for. It's approximately $124,000 we're applying for. Mr. Shoup performed calculations. The sidewalk would obviously be concrete. The walking trail, we're talking about crushed limestone?
Crushed limestone.
Yeah, so Mr. Shoup and I discussed that we wanted something that's permeable, more able to be used, ADA compliant, but at the same time, we don't want asphalt or concrete. We want something that's more environmentally friendly. So that would be crushed asphalt. So that's what I'm asking the board to give me permission to apply for.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I remember my kids themselves going from the middle school over to high school for sports, and talk about dangerous, that was dangerous.
Can we use some of our millings for that?
That goes along the lines of what we were talking about as far as millings are basically asphalt, so we don't think it's as good as crushed limestone. But Mr. Shoup, that's your department.
Well, it's definitely a cleaner product. I mean, you have a lot of different size gradation issues with the milling, so just my own personal opinion, I think it looks better too. We had, I think back when we were in planning commission a couple years ago, there was talk about maybe, hey, Public Works could do this project back there, and at the time we did talk about millings, but if you can get a grant for it and get something that's a little bit more first class, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-11, confirming that West Deer Township has formally requested a redevelopment authority of Allegheny County grant and designating the township manager to perform the required duties between West Deer Township and the RAAC?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
I have a question. For the GEDTF, the minimum construction budget's $150,000. Could we add paving the parking lot where the old township building was to this project?
Potentially, we could do that.
Did you get a quote or at least an estimate on that?
We did. That one was rather excessive. But I'm assuming it's going to come in more. What Mr. Shoup estimated is $124,000, but I anticipate this being higher. I can't show it on this drawing, but I'll show it later when we're talking about the dog show or why. We're talking about that walking trail is eventually going to split, go different directions, and there's also a portion in front where, right in front of the middle portion below the entrance here, but right where I'm pointing, it needs an additional spot for the mailbox because the Postal Service is asking us to move our mailbox from where it is to right in front of this building.
I support that.
Yeah.
My question is, if the GEDTF minimum construction budget is 150, can we throw an extra $30,000 into that to cover the cost of
Yeah.
paving?
I don't see why not.
Are we still able to change?
Is there a guide rail in the budget for that too?
No, the guy rules the states.
It is.
Take notes.
Are we able to?
So, yeah, if you just want to amend your, whoever made the motion, Mr. Hall, if you just want to amend it to include,
The asphalt pit, yeah, I'll add it to that.
Was that Mr. Mulder and Mr. Spelman?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Bairdford Park electrical agreement. As mentioned in previous meetings, the Township, Deer Lakes Youth Softball, and Duquesne Lake have been working together to get electricity to the B6, B7 ball fields. After receiving preliminary approval from the board, the Township manager and Duquesne Lake finalized a drawing and agreement, which is attached. Anything to elaborate, Mr. Baker? Straightforward?
yeah, it's very straightforward. Again, as I described to the public before, all of this is running electricity from around where the beginning of the parking lot is in Bairdford Park up to the B6 and B7 ball fields.
And who's paying for this?
Deer Lakes Youth Softball volunteer, we originally were to pay for it, the township.
They got a grant.
They got a grant, and we said, well, we'd swap with them if they pay this in advance because this wasn't budgeted. They'll cover this, and then we will cover part of their lights later,
Is it above ground or underground?
underground.
Do I have a motion to authorize the chairperson, Township manager, to execute the Bairdford Park electrical agreement with Duquesne Lake, conditioned upon the approval of the Township solicitor and Township manager as to uniform?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Hollowell, second by Mr. Fleming, all in favor? Opposed? Hearing advertisement of Kaufman Commons PRD. The applicant is Bairdford Development LLC. The location is corner of Kaufman Road and Bairdford Road with 10.76 acres. The lot block number 1668-D-077 and 1668-H-386. The general zoning district is R3 suburban residential, and the request is to propose a PRD consisting of 20 single-family homes. The applicant is requesting a planned residential development in the R3 suburban residential zoning district. Are there any questions regarding the advertisement of the Kaufman Commons PRD?
My only question, maybe Mr. Shook, or Mr. Bader, I think there's going to be two hearings that evening, right? And I should apologize for not raising this earlier. Do we think we can knock them both out in an hour? Or should you start earlier? I mean, we could always roll over into the meeting time, but
Just me personally, I think this one could be accomplished in 30 minutes. The second one would be maybe the one that's not.
That's what I was thinking too.
But yeah, if we want to bump these up, then we can start earlier, or we could switch them. And although I think the Kaufman Commons one again would be the quicker of the two.
And I don't know if the board is even able to get here before 6, so maybe it's a good point. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter. We don't have to stop at 7 o'clock. We can just keep rolling and start when they're over. But I have a sneaking suspicion that at least one of these two would be a little more longer, and more complicated.
If we have a lot of public comment and discussion, can we postpone it to another date?
You could.
Continue it.
You could, I mean, ideally, you want to knock out the entire public hearing. It would be better to get that done in one night so that people aren't coming back and witnesses aren't coming back to rebut. So I think that's the
Just
better
to add
practice.
to that note, and to Mr. Wiggins' question, there's a chance we're going to have another public hearing in October already. So you're also bumping into that one potentially also.
So can we just risk running over and wrapping it up when we can?
Sure, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted everyone to be aware that I suspect we'll probably go past 7 between the two.
Do I have a motion to set the public hearing for the Kaufman Commons PRD for September 17th at 6 p.m.?
Make the motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hollabaugh, second by Mr. Fleming, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Authorization Authorization hearing advertisement of the Wilds Plan. The applicant is Frank Sakaitis, Wilds, Pittsburgh, LP. The location is on Star Road with 31.51 acres. The lot block number is 1361-B-186, 1361-C-177, and 1361-C-104. The zoning district is R3 suburban residential, and the proposal is to conditional use plan consisting of 137 townhomes. Applicant is requesting plan development in the R3 suburban residential zoning district. Are there any questions regarding the advertisement of the Wilds Plan?
Was the previous plan withdrawn?
Not technically, both prior versions of the Wilds are on appeal. Unless you're not, there was a prior application for this plan that was revised and submitted.
I'm talking about the other two formats.
Yeah, the other two are still pending in court conflicts.
On the same property. So this will be again for September 17th, hopefully 6:30. Do I have a motion to set that public hearing?
Motion, I'll make that motion. Second it.
Motion by Mr. Holloway, second by Mr. Smolin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Award of the 2025 GuideRail program. The board has received the quotes from the GuideRail project to furnish and install guide rails on Donaldson, McIntyre, and McClure roads. The following bids were received. One by Fence Maintenance Service for $16,927. One by Allegheny Fence Construction Company for $19,950. One for Interstate Enterprise for $33,825. Mr. Shute.
Yes, as has been the case for probably the last half dozen years, Fence by Maintenance Service was your low bidder, and they have done very good work for the township and the as well as for other municipal clients. So I have no problem recommending it be awarded to Fence by Maintenance Service.
Do I have a motion to award the GuideRail project to Fence by Maintenance Service in the amount of $16,927?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Holloway, second by Mr. Wigan. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Award the sale of the asphalt millings. The board authorized the advertisement of the sale of approximately 1,800 cubic yards of asphalt millings to one bidder. The project was advertised and sealed bids were received until 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 19, 2025, at which time they were open and read aloud to the public. Mr. Shute, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, there were three interested parties that got the form of proposal and instructions relative to this seal. Unfortunately, only one submitted a bid, a very low bid, basically total price of $180. So, which isn't worth your while. Your crew would spend much more than that just loading the trucks for them. So I assume I'm with Mr. Mator jointly saying that we would recommend you just do not award this project at all. I don't know that you need a motion to do that, just no action. Oh, reject, okay. Okay.
Do I have a motion to reject all bids for the sale of approximately 1,800 cubic yards of asphalt millings?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Holloway, second by Mr. Smolin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Do we want to read that?
I'm gonna discuss this with Mr. Shute, but we think there's a better way of doing this. There's nobody out there that's gonna buy 1,800 tons other than like a company that put a bid in. So we want to see if there's a possible way we can allow residents and local businesses to purchase it. A piece, and we'll see.
Okay, discussion, Bairdford, concession stand. Mr. Mayor, you're up.
Okay, let's try this again. Not that. Okay. This is the concession stand at Bairdford Park. This is not something that needs to be voted on right now. It's not something that even needs to be on the agenda anytime soon. anybody who's familiar with Bairdford Park knows that we received C2P2 grants from the Commonwealth to take care of that lower bowl area where you see the pickleball courts, basketball court, pavilion, things like that. The big blank space is for the deck hockey court that we were not awarded yet, but we applied for this year. The concession stand is pretty important because we have a park master plan that's on our website that pretty much dictates everything we do at both the Nike site and Bairdford Park. And the thought when we came up with the park master plan back in 2015, 10 years ago now, was that I have those two areas circled in the middle of the field. You see that, what would that be, a hexagon? Where the hexagon is where the concession stand would be. We already went through with our public works department and our electrician many years ago to run electrical out to that location. The long-term thought when we had the park master plan in process was to move all the concession area to the hexagonal area, hexagonal, and the old concession stand, which is the small circle down the bottom, convert that to a public works garage where they can store their equipment. Because currently right now, the large circle that's next to that building that's next to the pavilion where the restrooms are and everything is the garage where they store all their equipment. But what we were talking about doing along the lines of what we recently did with the pavilion, upgrading the pavilion, replacing the roof, taking care of the concrete, the ADA ramp, everything that we're doing there. We're talking about opening up a hole in the side of the building that faces the pavilion with a roll-up door that people could have, like, provide kind of like kitchen services, things like that in there, for whether it be a rental or one of the youth associations using it. But in order to do that, the dominoes have to fall. We need to replace the concession stand first. And Deer Lakes Youth Baseball recently reached out to me and told me that one of the legs of their 240 line is dead. We sent our electrician out, they found that it was, and they're able to get by, but nobody wants to spend whether it be the township or the baseball association, wants to spend $7,500 to run a line that may not be necessary in a year or two. So the reason I'm bringing this up now to the Board of Supervisors is that if we do get awarded that C2P2 grant, that's going to be, that concession stand is the next part of that next phase of the park master plan, and it's probably something we want to have designed sooner rather than later. We don't even have to wait for C2P2 grants. We can try getting other grants to fund that. In order to do that, we'd have to have that designed. I spoke with Mr. Shoup on both this issue and the next item on the agenda, asked him if he was able to throw something together, and he recommended that we reach out because we have such a good working relationship with HHSDR, the architects who designed this building, to reach out to them. And I had a meeting with them. They did a pro bono for us, a Teams meeting where they discussed both the concession stand and the dog shelter. And they gave a proposal to the board. Obviously, you can't do anything with it now, but if you wanted to do it next month, I just need permission to put it on the agenda, where you can have them basically come up with site design, site location, renderings, schematic plans, things like that, as a first step. And so that's why I just brought it up. That's why this is a discussion item for the board. Again, down the road, this isn't anything that's going to happen this fall or next spring, but the earliest it could happen is 2017. And as I already mentioned, youth baseball needs it right now because they're down the line.
You said 2017?
Did I say that? You did. All of my time. It's a time machine thing, but 20, yeah, obviously wrong. 2027, thank you.
Architectural firm that, or could it get something together?
They gave us a proposal. It's in my report to the board. So I just need to know if you wanted to entertain that next month, but the floor is open to the board.
I think it's worth entertaining it rather than coming.
Back in the day when we were on the parks, that was an octagon like you'd have there.
Yeah.
I was thinking moved a little bit, but that's about it. But Any changes to it since I've been on there?
Not really, because just to give a little bit of insight for everybody too who wasn't involved, when we had EPD, Environmental Planning and Design, draft or create our park master plan, they did a fabulous job. And the first thing they noticed when they were talking about Bairdford Park was that the fields are backwards. If you go to other locations, you have home plate at the center, and then the outfields are in the corners, not this one. Unfortunately, they also said, I said, well, let's take care of that. And they said that, and they weren't kidding. I thought they were close to $500,000 at the time to put those fields the way they should, facing the outside. And also, if you can see the difference in sizes, with B1 being the largest and B2, B3, B4 being different varying sizes based on age, that would change everything. Because where we have a conduit and everything is based off of these fields.
Is this going to interfere with community days, that location? Is it right on the other side of the fence?
It is, and that was intentional. We also talked about possibly using that at community days. And you're right, it was originally off-tagging.
Yeah.
But it still could be.
Well, they wanted it so everybody would have a way into it. Whatever field was using, you could come into it, which I thought was
And then
a good
softball
idea.
would use it as well?
Yeah, I'm of the impression that softball wants to do something themselves eventually long-term on top of the field, so people don't have to walk all that distance. But that,
I don't think it's a bad idea to start with where they're at and where we want to go.
It would be nice to get a cost on it. I mean, we did 8 years ago. I don't remember what it was.
less than it is now.
So where would do we have a cost on what the electric repair would be?
It's about $7,500.
And where does it have to go?
From, it's hard to, I don't have any pointers on this, but if you see where the parking lot is and where B1 is, right where it's actually right where the large circle is, that, can I see? What is that?
The yellow part of the large circle.
Okay, yeah, it's right there, right where the E1 box is, the big box, right next to B1, next to the driveway, and it goes the whole way, it follows the whole way. We already replaced one line many years ago, and we put a conduit in because there was no conduit, we just put it in
It's
around. It is.
Where was that one then?
Same place.
They actually,
We put it in the conduit?
Yeah, we did.
we actually have very good advocates that, the last year I was in, changed it all.
But the section that currently failed is not in conduit.
They said it's not only dirt, but it's shallow, which isn't good.
Probably goes right through the field.
It could.
Right through.
Yeah, and so our electrician looked a little good, and he said, look, you can pay me to try finding where his rate is, and we'll work back and repair where it is. He said he's telling me, based off his experience, it's a lot cheaper just to replace that entire line with the concrete.
And not only that, to put money into anything there for the purpose of that concession stand.
Yeah.
It was Walmart, like horrible.
Yeah.
So I personally forward looking at some sort of rendering of what it could look like, what their ideas are, with the public, not just with us.
Right.
I'm okay with moving forward with the rendering, but I mean, we're talking 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
Can they use generators to maintain their operations?
I think we'll have to basically survive the next year or so until we can do that. I spoke with the president, Daryl Chief Baseball, about that too. And, it's a cost benefit analysis.
They still have some power though.
Yeah, they do. They have one line, they said 120 over there right now. The nice thing too, and Mr. Wade, you know this from grants, if you have a drawing already ready to go, a lot of times when grant money comes along, they'll ask, do you have anything ready to go right now? And if you say yes, you're on it.
Absolutely.
That's why I'd rather start this now than.
Shovel-ready projects, get a better eye, but my concern is what are we going to be in 2 years?
I'm sure we
Like you say, football use ice. You can have that. They just figure it out.
Yeah, they're still able to do a lot. It's just, I think the thing that not going to use right now is paint product. That's what I think that because of that line not being there. so they did that. And again, if like, you know, I threw it out to them and said, "Would you want to pay for youth baseball?" And they said no. They met and they said it didn't make sense to them. So they,
Probably because it's pretty bad.
yeah, and you have to sell a lot of nachos or something to save $700.
So we're just asking French fries if we're talking about.
We make our nachos from scratch.
We're just asking for a quote on the rendering. This would be contingent upon the C2P2 grant.
Yeah, well, any grant, because we could even try GEDTF next year, but we need something in hand to start. So just asking, no, I'm just asking you, are you okay with putting it on the
I would say
agenda?
yes.
Yep, I am too.
Everybody agree?
Everybody on board? So, an update, I have not spoke to the board. Last month we went, and we recorded this last month, we went to meet with the school board. They were not able to vote on anything because Norm, their land, what is he called?
He's the grounds.
Grounds supervisor. He did not have a chance to look at it in the month that they were off in July. So I asked him if he would touch base at last night's meeting and let me know how it went. He called me right after the meeting. They are in favor and coming up with a price, but they prefer to work with their real estate solicitor, not just their regular solicitor. So they're going to draw something up. They can't vote on anything, obviously, which is not a proposal. All negotiable, but they said they're going to draw something up and send it to us. It'll be between their president, Larry Knight, and you and I will be on the correspondence.
Who owns the road between the EMS building and the old township?
I'll get right into that. So I colored this maybe easy. When we met with the school, this helped a lot as well. The purple road down at the bottom, we own. Because if you see the purple right next to our property line. Our property line, where the old building was, is blue, or aqua, whatever you want to call that, going around a large parcel. The purple that's right next to it, that's the part we own, because it's actually part of our parcel, the EMS property. What we're proposing to the school board, when we met with them, is, let's get this one all the way first, because this is very important. The orange proposed public right-of-way you see there, it connects to this large area up there. Mr. Shoup came up with this. We own that land back there. The problem with that land is it's inaccessible from our land, from where we are right now. And if anybody knows anything about gradients, you can understand why. And if anybody's ever stood on top of that hill, you understand why. And I said this to the school board, Mr. Verdetta, you were there, you heard me say it. I'm not kidding at all. You would need a bridge, a literal bridge to get from our property to that property without that orange access road. So we're trying to get a right of way. Now, when it comes to the dog show, the argument originally was, and I've seen the evolution of this argument because as a lot of people came and spoke on behalf of the dog shower, including one of the volunteers. What's wrong with the location? My original thought was just renovate it in place. What's the problem? Until one of the supervisors, Mr. Hollowell, brought this up, and I thought it really hit home. If you look at the location of the dog shelter, which is in green, it's right smack dab in the middle of that parcel. So if we ever want to put, and I use different examples, whether it's a community center, a library, a public safety center, whatever it may be, and I'm not proposing any of those things, I'm just throwing them out as possibilities. If you do something like that, you lose the access because the dog shelter, because of where it is right now, blocks that. Our public works guys can easily grade that, going up to the larger parcel, which would allow parking, a roadway, whatever, to go out there. So it isn't that we're opposed to the dog shelter where it is, it's just, that's going to be an impediment to future development. And as supervisors have said in the past, you don't want to put money, we just got a grant for $320,000 to renovate or build new, whatever, the dog shelter. You don't want to put that money into it and tear it down 5 years from now, or you want to put a community center or something. So it's just forward thinking, it's trying to think down the road of what may happen. So we start discussing this with the school board, and you see the pinkish reddish area and the yellow area. Those are the potential dog shelter areas. Okay, so we're proposing 2 different locations because the ideal location for us, believe it or not, everybody mentioned location, is right behind the EMS building. Why? Because the utilities are already right there. We don't have to dig anywhere. We just have to connect with utilities that are already existing. The dog training area is right above it right now that our police use. And location, people mentioned location, it's right there. But the second location, but when we brought that up to the school board didn't seem like they were in favor of that location. The reason why, and I don't know, you can't see it here, but East Union Schools is right there. If they ever have to expand that, they're the only way they can move is backwards towards that dog training area. And you see that large circle at the top, that's flat. So they said, we will need that. So we're still talking with them. I met with the superintendent, the ground supervisor, grounds person, whatever his name is, and the business manager just last week. The school board asked them to meet with me so we could actually physically walk it, which we did. And they were very appreciative. They said walking it made a lot of difference in their mind because they understood what we're actually, when you see it drawing like this, it doesn't help as much as actually walking the property. So we walked it, they thought it was very beneficial, and they seem to be more inclined to make the recommendation of the shelter area number 1. But again, that's ultimately up to the school board. If you're talking a 100 foot by 100 foot piece of property, that we would need to move it there. But the second area, which we kind of started leaning toward, and this is what people are saying about being remote, but it isn't really remote, is that potential dog area shelter number 2. And we proposed that because that's in yellow. We proposed that because if we get that right of way, which we really hope the school board works with us on, because that's very important, it's ultra important. And then that pretty much blocks off that piece of land. Right where you see the potential dog shelter area, that's right at the base of the hill where the salt shed is. And so they really can't use that. Even the grounds person, Mr. Kearney said it. He said that's going to be useless for us if we put a road there. So if it's useless for them, it's something we couldn't use. We could put a dog shelter there. And again, as we've discussed in the past, the utilities are all there because you have that building right there, the rectangle. That's it says existing metal building. That's the public works garage.
It's not on our property.
That's not on our property. It's on school district property. And what we're talking about doing, if you go back to the area with all the little plus signs on it that Mr. Shoup drew, that's where we put a new public works garage and a new salt shed eventually. We have 5 years left on our lease with the school district. At that point, we don't know what's going to happen. Again, every time we talk about leases with them, they talk about expanding, and they need room to expand if more kids come into the district. And we can laugh at that all we want, but we have a school board member here, they're not thinking about right now and laughing and saying, we don't have the kids right now. They're thinking 20, 30, 40 years down the road. So I hope this explains a lot. And also the little, if you see this proposed pedestrian trail, that's what I said, I'll bring that up when we talk about the GEDTF grant. We're talking about a potential spur on it as well, because if we put anything up there, again, whether it be a community building or community center, library, public safety
We can
center,
extend that.
we can extend it.
I think we should touch upon too,
Yeah.
that red area that we're talking about, where you are first choice.
Yeah.
We can't blame the school district either. We own that property as well. If they want to do future expansion, I don't think they're being unreasonable with us at all.
And I said
That's a valuable piece of property to them. The piece in the back is more valuable to us, which not only for future development for a public works building, it also, we would include paving that road. You got 2 athletic fields down there, possibly a new public works road. And then with that road being paved, and call it is not going to be isolated. There's going to be so much going on down there in future development. If we put a public works building back there, It's a paved road, school buses come in, we have 2 athletic fields, it is not isolated.
Gas pumps are back there, there's a lot.
Everything, there's always somebody back
We're
there.
going to
So,
adopt that as a public road so that no one can ever cut that off in the future. It will be a road that's maintained just like anything else. So I think, my personal opinion is, if they hear whistle from the field, I would think that Ian has sent a police siren from outside dog more than a whistle from referee.
and there's a lot of people who comment about the dogs, they don't want to be sheltered. I mean, down there, you have kids playing, you have kids in the athletic field there, you have a public works building, there, you have now a paved road. Nothing's gonna be isolated, there's gonna be a lot of traffic through there, and then with the new trail as well leading to it.
And I think ultimately Barb said, look, wherever it works best, as long as I have a place for these dogs and have these needs, that's what I
It
want.
gives her a little bigger turnout area, it opens up some doors for her.
All she cares about, she said she didn't worry about anything except she has what she needs for those animals, and we're not sacrificing anything to do at either one of those locations.
Right.
So we talk about, why don't we plan ahead, because this is planning ahead for what could come down the road, so.
Can you kind of describe physically like where this is? Because like I don't understand in the drawing.
You sure where the salt shed is, maybe that's.
Yeah, let me blow this up.
So it's like the salt up
See?
on the hill right now.
Yeah, see, it says the salt storage shed, it's sideways, but can you see that?
Yeah.
That's where it is, and then when you see those gradients at the top, they're really, become really tight, that's the hillside behind the salt shed.
So it would be down.
It'd be down, right on the edge, like right, probably the best way to describe it, see where the existing metal building, that's our public works garage you see back there.
Okay.
And our gas pumps are basically,
Right by the elbow.
yeah, right by the yellow.
The
So,
buses are there, the kids walk from there every day from the middle school to the high school, every day, they've done it for years. And,
so much of this, and we said this to the school board, so much of it comes down to utilities, and where are the utilities available. When I spoke with Mrs. Pasquale about where to put the potential areas, because we talked about this last December as soon as we got the grant, if everybody can see those lines that go up, those aren't parking spaces, or that's actually the geofill for this time, because we use geothermal heating and cooling. You can't build on top of that. You know, as I mentioned in the past meeting, if you look back there, it looks like a great location, and both she and I agree, that's great, why don't we just put it right there? You can't, because you can't get utilities there. That's the problem.
so it's funny because it said, about the utilities down here, we discussed all of that with our engineer and.
This wasn't something we just said, oh, let's put it there.
There's just so much planning and just the insinuations, oh, yeah, this is something good ideas, it's not the case, we've had so many meetings about it.
And I joked with the school board employees who met with me, and I said, this is, we look at this as, we might take that in a different direction. We're not, the problem is that best locations for the dog shelter, given our situations with utilities, are both on school district property. And it's sad, but you see what they did in the past in Western Township. I don't even know if I was born when this happened, but the public works garage, I don't think anybody, I don't even know if you were on board. You were on board when we discussed this, right?
Yeah.
They were threatening basically to kick us out, not because they're being jerks, but because they said, look, we need that space. And we said, okay, what are we going to do with all of our public works equipment? Where are our public works employees going to be? That's why I always recommend and advise all boards, all elected officials, do not go on somebody else's property.
They've been very gracious with us, letting us stay there as long as they have, so we thank God for the school board, that at some point, our lease is gonna run out, and we need to be forward thinking about where we're gonna put things.
5 years.
Yep.
And we all support the dog shelter, we'll donate, I got my dog there, I have a dog now, I have one coming in October. It's just, we really are thinking of all of these things and the best solution for everybody.
Yep, picture of paved with a nice walking trail.
It's not gonna be that steep, maybe that's what you can't see, so behind there it's so steep, that's gonna be great, it's not gonna be up like that, it would be great.
I have a question regarding the utilities, Mr. Mator, if I may. How are those two locations better locations for utility placement than where you have it right now?
Mr. Hall, that goes back to what I started with. If you see the green, that's where it is right now. That's the problem. It's not that we have a problem where it is right now. It's the fact that future development, if you want to talk about planning.
What are you planning for in there?
We don't know. You could have the
You
community.
just want to keep our options up, and that's
Yeah.
flat topography, I mean, just common sense.
Well, we talked about having moving the public works to that flat area, but tuck back in there. If we get the right way, that's all big. If this happens, then that.
Yeah, up there,
Yeah.
that area. So, but this area is just, again, it's right in the middle of a parcel.
Right.
I heard some comments before from, I'm sorry, I couldn't attribute to anybody here, but I know somebody here said it. They talked about, well, why not build it on the pad, the concrete pad that's over there. We asked about that. I asked the architects about that when they had a Teams meeting. They said, that will actually cost you more than just building new because you have to go through so much. You can't just build it on a pad. Just say, there's a pad here, let's build on it. They said so much more goes into that
It's still in their future development for that whole area.
Yeah. Well, I was even considering turning it sideways. Mrs. Jordan mentioned that. Again,
Then you're limiting the rural space again.
right, and that's the issue.
Well, again, this comes down to the point,
Looking at many options. This wasn't arbitrary. We worked with the engineer, with the school district, going over all these different plans and ideas. This is kind of where we are.
There's probably at least 5 times a night with Mrs. Sesquall in my office. We stood, it was winter, so we looked up the windows, what about there, what about there? It's just, we're in a tough position basically because of where that green, the current location is in that parcel.
I have one more question, if I may. So since you do not have a master plan, two things could happen. What if where you're proposing the dog shelter gets in the way of a plan that you come up with 10 years from now? Why don't you develop a master plan, get those ladies a water line up there until you decide what you want to do with the property as a whole, and then they can keep working out of the place that they're in.
Because I mentioned that earlier already, why are you going to put $320,000 into something you're going to tear down?
No, don't put the money into it, just get them their water line first. Come up with your master plan and then decide to renovate or move.
No, and that came directly from Mrs. Festival. She's the one, her husband drew a drawing up, and she mentioned this at the meeting, where she needs expanded space. She needs a well-being area, she needs dangerous dog area, they need a meeting room, they need a washer and dryer.
I saw the
All
plan.
these bathrooms, they don't have that.
Even without them spending money on a master plan, which would be pretty expensive, I mean, there's a lot of common sense there. You have a lot of flat topography back there, that road access. That area on the lower level, I mean, you could set up like every piece of land. What if we wanted to do something else there? I mean, the most valuable piece of land would be the top piece.
Because right now, if we don't work with the school, we can't do anything with all that property. We can't do anything at all. So there would be no planning because we can't get to it.
Well,
This is
it
the
would be a
first
lot
step.
easier to ask them for a right-of-way versus the dog shelter square footage as well.
But we're not having a problem with having a conversation that it's going fine.
Yeah, but how do we know that's not going to be in the way later on? You never think this through. You didn't think through a master plan.
So you can think that, but there's a lot more than you
Yeah,
think.
there's a lot more.
Respectfully.
Mrs.
you
Jordan,
don't
this is
have
what
all
I
the
do for a
answers.
living.
So can
I'm
I
a
say,
certified architect. You draw plans. We are talking to people who do this for a living.
We do site work as well.
We don't need to argue about this. I mean, this is what we're driving. We've been working on this for weeks.
can I
Weeks.
say, can I say that the only other option that I saw was Barb's renditioning of putting an addition onto the dog shelter at its current location. Was there other
Yes, we
options
had-
discussed? Because I was not a part of that.
Oh, yeah,
It
that's,
was me, John, the engineer reviewed, and she brought in the rendering, and we actually said, what about, and that's where we picked the pink space. And then we picked the other space, we had a long meeting about that, and that is the map, after that conversation, that we took to the school board, that I took to Larry and I did.
So the pink space, EMS would lose their upper parking lot, correct?
the only portion because we paid on one. So the existing parking, you can see it, it's hard to see. The existing parking lot's right where that does, basically on the parking lot, right, Mr. Shu?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you said those lines over there were the geo field?
Yes,
Don't we have a future road going through there?
on the side. See that right there? Goes on the side of it.
No, up the orange.
No, right next to the orange, that dashed line, that's where the road is.
That's gonna go up to the upper level.
Can you show the whole thing again? If that's the prime piece of real estate and you want to get rid of that dog shelter, what about turning it 90 degrees, putting it next to the field? It's out of the way. You haven't addressed my concerns about the isolation down there, even with the regrading aspect, with someone getting hurt down there.
Disagree 100%.
Well, I want to thank you for at least being transparent, Mr. Hollabon, and saying that you think that's a safe location on tape here tonight.
Mr. Hall,
Thank you.
you have your opinion, that's
Yeah.
great, but there's kids that walk there every day. We're gonna move on from the conversation now.
We have kids down there practicing every day, I'm down there
There's
myself.
kids that walk there every day. Your kids
They
did it.
down there
my
right
kids
now?
did it.
No one's
They
there
walk
now.
all the time, all the time.
Right now? It's dark out.
You weren't even interested in still a couple weeks ago.
Excuse me?
So we're gonna move on to.
Does, again, similar to this, we have a proposal from HHS, does the board want to put that on the agenda?
Yes.
It would be designated for just that location.
Well, no, because we won't move that until the school board, but this is, you'll have that on your agenda after the school board meets next time. So you'll better idea.
Okay, planning commission workshop update course of action, 27.
So I think this one's me, giving this one a break here. There's two aspects to this one. Since it's already been kind of touched on, I'll start with the planning commission workshop aspect of it. If you'll recall, the board sent a list of originally 6 items, which was amended to 7, to the planning commission for workshop topics. So the planning commission requested, the board provide topics that they wanted addressed, and the board gave those topics, I believe it's last November. So at their last meeting, the planning commission asked, because they did just recently complete item number 1, which myself and Mr. Shoup were working on consolidating information, and that will be discussed, and there should be something to you as a board in the very near future, probably the next couple of months regarding that. Since they did just complete the first item on the list, and you actually I passed out a list to all of you, you have a list of those 7 topics in front of you. Since they did just complete the first item, they requested, basically, is this list still accurate? Is this still the items you want to address? Is there anything you want to add, take away from this list? Is there, do you want to rearrange the order? Basically, again, since it's been about 9 months since this list was created initially, that's the request from the planning commission. So, like I say, you have that list in front of you, and really just kind of some guidance from you as a board, how you feel if this list, again, is what you want to stick with, or anything you want to change, again, add, take away, rearrange, what have you.
Did we make, what kind of progress was made on this salad?
That's what they just finished, and like I said, Mr. Shoup and myself were working on consolidating. They did an extensive job on that, and that will be actually back on planning commission's agenda for the whole commission to discuss in September. And then that's why I say, hopefully maybe October, November, that will be in front of you guys as a board, the recommendations.
Put the solar on there, and dig deeper into what would be needed.
But that's up to you as a board. That's what we're asking for.
Yeah, let's ask the planning commission to take a look at the solar ordinance. They have
Do you
recommendations.
have a preference where? Do you want to put it at the end? Do you want to bump it up to the top?
I think it needs to be bumped up. Those two are the most important, solid and then, I don't know how they operate, I don't know how the workshops work. Sure. You know better than I would. But I think for this, it needs to be an entire planning commission,
So the format of the workshops is at most 3 members of the planning commission. Open it up to the public. Anyone from the public is welcome to attend. There's collaboration there. They look at other ordinances, Hampton, Richland, and other comparable municipalities, and see if they have anything similar to what that topic is. Fortunately for land development items, that's something everybody has. So there's a lot of comparisons able to be made. So once that group has a recommendation, then that's presented to the entire planning commission. That's what happened last month. And quite frankly, there was just so much there that the group found to needed to be changed, tweaked. You know, some typos were found, some errors, and also some items that they feel are substantial enough that, you know, would be, you know, better for West Deer Township. So the first item was, as you look at the list, it's probably more, I'll say, detailed than some of the other items are. So that's why it took them a long time. I mean, they spent several months on this first topic. But it does usually go back to the entire planning commission before coming here.
And they did a really nice job, I will say, for the workshop. The work product that came out of that workshop, I think, is extremely valuable, as what I was put into that. And I think hopefully at that September meeting, you know, the entire planning commission will sort of get a coalesce around that sort of background work that Mr. Shook and Mr. Sheet will.
So it goes workshop back to planning commission, they vote on
Correct. Correct. Is there any other topics in addition to solar, or is that the only one?
Can we talk about the, so we have a lot of growth, we're growing pretty quick here.
Well, it's interesting because that's kind of the second aspect of this topic. Ever since I've been here, I know from a personal level, a theme that has come from not only this board, but previous board members is maintaining the rural character of West Deer Township. And, you know, that's done in different ways, it's, you know, through different means, but, you know, a big effect on that is housing plans. And as most, if not all of you know, there has been, especially in the last probably 5 to 8 years, 5-ish years, there's been an influx of plans and, you know, development on that aspect. And as you all are well aware, there are 3 housing plans in the Planning Commission's agenda for this month. So on top of that, in addition to the quantity that's come in, out of the last 5 that have been submitted, 4 have been PRDs, which for everyone's benefit stands for Planned Residential Development. Those, if you recall, provide for more density, quite frankly. Smaller lots, you know, that's how they get there. So with that in mind, we as a staff wanted to bring this up and say, look, you know, you just approved McIntyre Heights, which hasn't broken ground yet. Kingston has broken ground over by East Union Church. They're working on that now. Rose Ridge obviously is booming. We get building permits, occupancy permits by the tens or, you know, dozen every week. And again, now we have 3 more. So want to bring this up. Is this a topic that the board wants to discuss? Think about, you know, ways of, you know, reducing density in the township, controlling that, like looking at how we can address that, or is that a topic that, you know, everybody's fine with, or?
So does that fall under, I don't know what category, the 55 and over? We're pretty maxed out with 55 and over here.
Mm-hmm.
Like with, especially with TOA on 910, that's enormous.
So
We have it everywhere. I'm surrounded by it.
yes, yeah, you're right, there are several developments in the township, not just TOA is the most recent example, but we also have several others, the Millings, Steeplechase, you know.
I'm not saying that they're good, but we can't be all 55 and over.
Sure. Well, like I say, the issue you get into is density. And these, again, whether it's, I'm sure it's not by accident, but, you know, it's not a coincidence that 4 of the last 5 developments you've seen are PRDs. And I think if the board wants to look at this, that may be the best place to start.
What are our lot size requirements right now?
So, you're asking for just conventional development size. So, just for comparison's sake, PRDs right now are allowed in R1, R2, and R3 only, right? So, in R1, under a conventional plan, you're looking at a 50-foot front yard setback, right? Well, in PRD, a PRD plan that's reduced to 35 feet. So right there, you're looking at a 15-foot reduction, right? R2, conventional plan is 35 feet, and PRD is reduced to 25. Same thing for R3. So that, again, that's how you're getting more units, because you've got those smaller lot sizes. Again, rear yard's another place. R1, in a conventional plan, you're looking at 75 feet. In a PRD, that drops all the way down to 25 feet. So you're talking a 50-foot reduction. So
to,
no, there's a lot, I will say, there's a lot of tools in the toolbox, so to speak. Some more substantial than others. It's just, again, if this is a topic that the board wants to address, to look at, to, again, discuss, we can discuss those. It's just, I guess, really, is that something the board wants to entertain first and foremost before we start throwing out what the options would be?
We got enough PRDs right now, and us baby boomers gonna be checking out pretty soon. So, I don't know. We're talking, 20 years of a lot of PRDs, and
Well, the larger lot size, you might have larger homes.
And that's one thing you can do. I mean, that could be not even necessarily already considered. You can adjust your lot area requirements. You can change the lot width. I mean, that's one of the tools you can utilize if you want.
just, can we start, Mr. Fleming mentioned, can we start with kind of statistics? How many 55 and over, what's that kind of population look like?
Say from last year.
And how does it compare to other neighboring districts?
So you're asked like how many?
Single family homes, how many we build, where we at, whatever.
Sure. So specifically for the 55 and up that you're speaking of, TOA, the Rose Ridge property, that's 246 units that's being built right now. And then their new proposal that is going to be in the Planning Commission for the first time next week is 163 units.
Well, we can't regulate if it's 55 and up.
The way it is not to try to regulate the age-restricted nature,
Right.
it's to regulate. Do we want to limit it? If you're each right now, are how many zoning districts?
3, R1 through R3.
So, I mean, you could consider eliminating PRDs from certain districts. Consider eliminating PRDs altogether. Now, obviously, PRDs are, I think any developer will tell you that in Western Pennsylvania, they're a particularly helpful tool because of the topography here, because you can, oftentimes a large portions of the property that can't be developed, so you can leave, open space, you have homes that are in an area, you leave, common areas, amenities, and things like that. So I don't think it's fair to say all PRDs are bad, but certainly you're getting a lot of dense development. So, looking at restricting the areas where PRDs are permitted, looking at planning lot sizes, setbacks, things like that. As Mr. Shook said, there's a number of ways to go about addressing that. So if it's a concern that the board has kind of overall, it's something that we could present some potential options that you can discuss in the planning commission first, or the board could take the first track and send it to the planning commission to refine.
Can we try that, if you get some options?
It's Rob made a good point, we already are great, what we got, well, it's not, anything else, we got big, large tracts of land, and put these on, those are potential lots for larger homes, I think something we're going to do for sure.
All right, so Mr. Shook and I had sort of preliminary discussion, because our expectation was that would be, where the board already had. So if we get at least the majority of headnots here, we'll get together. I think those two will probably do a lot of the heavy lifting because of this township-specific nature of it. I'll swing away on the legal side, and we'll maybe present some options for the board to consider. And if you like something, we can do it. Kind of tell us what the direction.
Eliminating PRDs?
No, just, we could present it as an option if there's interest, but I guess my first thought would be, maybe eliminating from R1, because that's easy to large lot area anyway.
Designated area.
Right.
Controlled area.
Would that not be exclusionary?
You look at it, PRDs are optional.
Yeah.
The municipality planning code specifically says, a municipality may adopt a PRD ordinance, but it's not required to. So I would say certainly the majority of municipalities do allow PRDs at least in some areas. And there is still some areas in the township where it'd be appropriate, but I think that would just be one easy way to restrict some of that denser development and kind of focus on the more conventional developments that we the board favors. And there's no sort of like magic, razor here, or they're so broad. I think we can provide you some options, and you say, yeah, kind of like that, and then send us to work with the planning commission on, putting the product together for your review.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Swan, you agree with that? Mr. Lawler?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any appetite to relook at the gas well ordinance?
There's no application, everything, even the ones that went through, all the applications were before that. It hadn't even came in.
I understand that, but as it is right now, like if you're talking about, being ahead of the game, now would be the time to talk about it.
I mean, I'm for the asphalt, but I think, I can already have fun with you. I mean, because you talked about that originally, that, the ordinance might not be perfect, but, might want to change
I'll
that.
make suggestions on that as well. We told them that,
We've got to get these couple things figured out here pretty quick. And you said they have this solid figured out, which is great.
the workshop team is done with that, but there's still a lot of work, the staff and full planning commission.
I think solar has to be your next priority. It's not like everything's gonna get done in the next 4 weeks, so we can focus on solar and then move down the list.
I think that you can still put it on the list. Yeah, I think you put that on the list to prioritize, in order so it's more important now.
So where would you like that placed? You want that after solar, you want it at the bottom, at the end, where the board?
So the salvo slash entities, right?
That's still number one, but that's not a workshop.
Right. So we're talking about the next topic to address, which sounds like it's going to be solar. So basically after that, you want to start with what was.
Come hand in hand a little bit. It's energy.
Yes.
This would be interchangeable.
I will say that, looking at the list that was originally provided to the workshop group, the first task was, as Mr. Shook said, the most difficult and most detailed. When you look at some of the other things about creating survey standards for accessory building permits, guidelines for, unusual accessory buildings and shipping containers, I can see the workshop turning that around pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So, maybe an idea, there's just a suggestion, have them start with solar, see how long that takes, but then they might be able to bang out the next 3 or 4 and be in a position to look at, at that time, we may be looking at the kind of the density issues, and maybe we could also look at the oil and gas, and we sort of evaluate that and how you want to do that on that priority. But at least it makes a list for now, and we can. All right.
Future discussion, we just did that.
Jeremy Schaefer is hosting a park rate license plate event at Western Number 3 on August 27th.
Okay, and we're public comment on non-agenda related matters. Please report your comments, 3 minutes, state your matters.
Victoria Austin, Hemlock Street. I'd just like to share some comments on distribution of the July Westfield newsletter. I'm a management retiree with over 34 years in the U.S. Postal Service, so I have extensive knowledge of the subject I'm addressing. Any Westfield residents with a Bairdford 15006 zip do not have mail delivery. Our mail is limited to P.O. Box pickup. In the past, my Westfield newsletters, which I have retained copies of, included my name followed by my P.O. Box number on the address. The July newsletters for Bairdford were all addressed to physical or street addresses and also lacked addressee names and did not have any P.O. box. They were only addressed to resident and then a physical street address. The so-called Bible of the Postal Service is called the DMM, the Domestic Mail Manual. DMM 910.1.3 states, a number is assigned to each P.O. box. Mail intended for delivery through a box must show the assigned P.O. box number in the address immediately above the city, state, and zip code. Now, you can do a mass mailing to PO boxes by omitting the physical addresses and just addressing to box holder at a specific zip and mailing the exact number that there are boxes, which the head of that postal unit can supply. The postal employee's sorting mail at a box unit is not required to utilize physical street addresses to sort mail and does not have an easy ability to do so. The entire mailing sent to Bairdford could have been rightfully returned to sender due to failure of any of them to have a PO box number and to follow basic USPS regulations. Writing the newsletter, formatting, publication, and printing the newsletter along with postage is done at a significant cost to taxpayers. It would be prudent to ensure that the address list provided to the printer for future mailings meets the minimum postal standards to ensure distribution to residents. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob McConnell, I live at 936 Copper Creek Trail. Regarding the live streaming of township meetings, inasmuch as many of us appreciate the fact that Western Township is finally going to live stream township supervisor meetings, like most municipalities around us have been doing so for some time, one must still ask, why will it be so complicated to access? One, why does one have to go through a convoluted 4 to 5 step process, which I did today for my wife, to simply view a township meeting? I seem to recall that the township wanted a more expensive webinar subscription so that it would be easier and less work for Mr. Mator. However, he is having to individually send links and approve each request for a view-only live stream. 2, you don't have to sign up or be a township president to attend the township meeting in person. Why so restrictive for the live stream? Especially since the individual watching is not able to comment during the meeting proceedings. 3, considering all the time and effort that went into this, and since we all support transparency, is there a plan to live stream all public township meetings, including planning commission, zoning hearing board, special meetings, etc.? 4, what if I want to live stream the meeting and I miss my window of opportunity to register ahead of time? Or what if I plan to attend the meeting in person, but something comes up at home at the last minute, illness, childcare, etc., that precludes me from attending the meeting, and I also miss the window of opportunity to register to live stream? And 5, why make the process of watching meetings so complicated and labored? Why not make it as easy as possible for the residents and do what most of the other municipalities do? Just post a link on the township website so people can simply click and watch. The steps in our process are unnecessary, they complicate access, and it will certainly discourage people from watching their township meetings online. I'm hopeful that the latter is not the desired outcome. Separate from the live streaming, and I'm certain I'm not alone on this in this room, I am weary of the power outages and the flickering and flashing of lights. Could the township please advocate on behalf of the residents of West here to implore Duquesne Lake to fix the system? Thank you for your time.
Attorney Schaefer was working on that. So we have someone much higher than us that is on that issue. We spoke to them privately, not in this setting, but I spoke to them privately. That's a top priority for him, and he would be better to address that than us. But he did mention it was an issue here, for sure. We're all affected by it.
Sure. Thank you.
Scott Walls, Exeter Road. I want to thank the board for bringing back community days as the way it was this year in the parade. And that was a lot of work for the staff that was involved, but it was really enjoyed by the residents. Everybody that I talked to enjoyed it. The weather was good, so thank you for that. Hopefully we can continue that aspect. I'm up here a few times a month, and I see the old parking spots for the police over there sitting idle. Maybe that's someplace, temporarily. It's going to be a while before anything's done with dog shelter, no matter what the decision is.
and we can expand, use that area for dog retention, storage. It has a good roof, it just needs some size. So maybe that's an option we can have with it.
Zealand Glasgow Road. I wanted to echo Bob's sentiments of requesting that we also live stream the planning commission meeting, possibly the zoning hearing board meeting as well. I would really like to attend those, but I have a conflict those days. So it'd be great if I could tune in online. I also have a friend who was hoping to tune into the live stream tonight. She submitted the requested information today at 3:30 p.m. and she was unable to log in because it said that her registration wasn't approved. So I would also like to know that maybe the process of just clicking on when it's available would be nice.
I just want to, first of all, echo Scott's comments about the community days. I attended to, it was an excellent event. So thank you for all the effort that people put into it, and the parade was great and everything, so thank you. Also,
Mrs. McCaskey, she's one of them sitting right there.
hey, thank you. I don't mean to leave anybody out. Also, Mr. Fung, I just want to apologize that I've acted and interrupted you during your speaking about the ordinances. Didn't mean to do so. And Mr. Rob, I did want to thank you also for your positive remarks about the Planning Commission workshop and guidance you provided. That's been very helpful, and the workshops have been very good. One last thing I wanted to express is that we do make every effort to express and thoughtful questions and concerns, and we work hard to provide accurate information. We try and make every effort to present it in a respectful manner. And however, there's little or no public discussion or direct response to our questions or the information we provide, such as the solar ordinance. Like handed out a handout, it listed what the concerns were. And I just want to say, how do you think that makes us feel? How do you feel? And so we want to work with our township. And with the exception of the PC workshop, the current approach does not support cooperative engagement by the residents. And I respectfully ask for the process, for a better process to engage us. Something maybe you could think about. Thank you very much.
David Harrison, 1339 Middle Extension. I just wanted to commend the staff, the commissioners, the supervisors, both past and present, for their good stewardship for the township. I hear grumblings, which doesn't represent all of the residents of the township. Westier is going in the wrong direction, and I couldn't think that there's further from the truth. And I want to say it's a great time to be a Westier resident. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Brandon, on Homer Road. I'll speak up. Yeah, I just wanted to echo some of what was said about the live stream. If it's view only, I just don't understand why we're putting barriers up for people to just tune in and watch. Do we care that if non-residents are watching? Because I don't think we should. I mean, we accept federal funds from, They should have a right to tune in and listen and see what's going on and how it's going on. So, and I also agree with Mr. Harrison. I think that we are actually, this is a good community. I agree. And I actually love the fact, kind of, that we have so many diverse opinions up here. And I love, I heard Mr. Fong's comments and Ms. Jordan's. I know it's uncomfortable when people disagree and have opinions about solar, but that's what makes us great. I mean, if people are engaged.
We can take the opinions, we can take the comments. The aspect is,
what's fact? That's the aspect, fact.
And we're looking at 13,000 people, just because 12 people come here and want something, and if you don't do it, you don't listen to us. You have to listen to everybody, not just to people. We talk to people all the time. All of us talk to people. Everything is measured, and then you see it on social media, and you're just wrong, our solicitor's question, our engineer, our auditor, everyone's just, there's never anything pleasant ever. You feel like you know about this, take us out of it. It's like the staff can never do anything right. Oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You guys have no idea what we do up here. You really don't.
I'm more of an optimist. I say there's 12,909 people that aren't coming to the meetings, and I'm pretty happy.
Hey, I just think that this is healthy for people to be able to discuss things. And I understand.
What's not healthy is the spin put out there. There's always a spin when something is said back. You know how that other person will say, well, you're missing this one little point. That's the bad part.
I think we should be encouraged. This is my point, and I'll sit down. Get everybody. We should be encouraging people to come up here and to share their thoughts and opinions. And when our public officials act so annoyed when an opinion is expressed that's different from you or from somebody else.
I think I disagree.
Well, just finish. We get the impression sometimes, or I'll speak for myself, I get the impression sometimes that opposing arguments is an annoyance. And I think you hear the thing about, I can't remember what you were talking about, but years ago something happened, and you heard that that's what this meeting's for. That's what this discussion is about. So, I mean, I know people don't all agree with my stance on some things, and that's okay, and I welcome that, and I think it's okay for us to come up here and express it and share what we're doing. But anyway, that's all I had to share. Thanks, guys.
I apologize, I'm not sure, before we adjourn, I looking back at my notes, I hate to go back. No, let's settle down again. We were talking about planning commission workshop topics. I said publicly to attendees this meeting, I definitely said the last planning commission meeting, the issue of data center. And something that, those, we know solar's coming or possibly coming, or we'll see where it goes. I think there's very little doubt that there's going to be data centers, and we're lacking in regulations. So if everyone's okay, I also want to try to get that on the workshop here to have more, maybe the same amount of solar. Is everyone okay with that? I think it's an important, but trending issue that we need to have. That's totally correct. So I apologize. Is that okay? Got more comment? Okay. All right, sorry.